Hey guys, Miles here with Tactical Hyve and another class review for you. A few months ago, I had the opportunity to take Rick Hogg's 2-day War Hogg pistol class. Rick is a 29-year Special Operations combat veteran with 13 deployments under his belt. He also was a Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat Instructor. I first learned about Rick through the internet, noticed some posts talking about him, and I wanted to train with him, but because of a number of scheduling conflicts, we never had the chance. But when I heard that he was coming to San Diego, I jumped on that opportunity to train with him. Rick's class teaches solid fundamentals, and he does a good job with balancing it out with actual shooting drills that give students the opportunity to practice what they've learned throughout the class. While Rick's class covers similar concepts and core skills as other classes out there, his class differs from others in the sense that he wants his students to think more and have more of a defensive mindset that will allow them to survive a deadly encounter if they ever face one.
Rick's class was safe and organized, and he taught using a logical progression that helped students improve their fundamentals of marksmanship without any overwhelm. Class requirements were on par with other pistol classes. At a minimum, students had to bring a pistol, magazines, mag pouches, a range belt, outside the waistband holster, ammo, and eye and ear protection. Students were also asked to bring an old t-shirt. More on this later. Unlike many other instructors I've taken marksmanship classes with, Rick has placed the most emphasis on having a defensive or perhaps even a gunfighting mindset when training. He harps on being unemotional and thinking through everything we do. As he puts it, he won't be there if anything ever happens, so we need to think for ourselves. His class balances the fundamentals of marksmanship with a number of practical drills to work on what is taught, and there are parts of the class requiring students to shoot from 15 and 25 yards. Because of this, I feel the class is best suited for beginner to intermediate shooters and acts as a good refresher for more experienced shooters. As a side note, for more info on how we define experience levels, check out the link in the description of this video. Rick started the class off with a short classroom discussion, where he discussed his building block approach, and he encouraged students to be open to trying different things. I like this because to grow as a shooter, one needs to continually try new methods. We started the live fire portion of the class with a self-evaluation, where we had to shoot 2 pieces of paper from the 5-yard line, timed. We were instructed to take 5 shots on one piece of paper, 5 shots on the other, reload, then repeat the process. The self-evaluation gave us a baseline performance that we could use as a basis of comparison at the end of the class, as we ran the self-evaluation at the end of day 2 as well. Rick used the self-evaluation to also point out 2 things. 1, holding ourselves to a higher standard by considering whether we should count shots that hit the outside edge or the line of our intended target as a hit or not. And 2, to think about our decision-making process. Rick never told us which target to shoot first. If we consider shooting in order of priority, shooters typically should engage a closer target first, the closer target being represented by the larger piece of paper. After the self-evaluation, Rick taught us his War Hogg administrative loading process, which students were to use throughout the weekend. His process allows shooters to check if their sights or red dots are intact and gives shooters the opportunity to incorporate valuable reps of important movements, such as presenting one's gun to a target. Before diving into the fundamentals, Rick moved on to working malfunctions revolving around a failure to fire or a failure to feed, so that students knew how to deal with these malfunctions if they happened during the class. The class then moved on to the fundamentals of marksmanship: stance, grip, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, and recovery or follow-through were all covered. Here, Rick discussed each fundamental and the class worked on everything dry. During this block of instruction, we spent some time working on our presentations. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what that means, it's basically working on the point from where both of your hands meet to grip a pistol, all the way to pushing your pistol out in front of you to get on target. Rick mentioned that one's presentation is critical, and I completely agree. During presentation, we refine our grip, get our sights aligned, prep our trigger, ultimately breaking our shots at full presentation. As we covered the fundamentals, I liked how Rick mentioned that when it comes to trigger control, the amount of finger placed on a trigger will vary depending on factors such as a shooter's hand size and gun size. Instead, the focus should be on the principle of pulling the trigger straight to the rear. Assuming all fundamentals are in place, it doesn't matter where one's trigger finger placement is as long as the trigger moves straight to the rear without disrupting one's sights. After the fundamentals, Rick discussed natural point of aim to help students understand how the alignment of our body with an intended target matters if we want to shoot fast and accurately. Our first live fire drill of the day was working on single shot presentations on our own and on Rick's signal. Given the importance of the presentation, we spent a good amount of time on this, allowing students to get in enough reps while being hyper aware of the process.
So just try, and just see if it doesn't work for you. Bring your pistol just a little bit lower, because you're almost doing some crazy little nuance right at the end.
Okay.
Just see if bringing it lower doesn't help you drive.
Oh, it starts from here?
Just try it.
Okay, yeah.
Just play with it a little bit.
Yep.
So again, guys, remember, part of this is you trying to figure some things out, right?
We moved on to working control pairs from different distances to work our fundamentals. We shot a few strings on our own, and then a number of strings on Rick's command. After, we worked on reloads, specifically emergency combat reloads and the tactical reload, and the draw. We spent some time here working on everything dry to ensure all students had efficient movements. We then ended these blocks of instruction with live fire drills to work both reloads and our draws. Having covered the fundamentals and the draw, we then moved on to 5-shot drills from different distances to continue working on our fundamentals as well as recoil management. Shooting from different distances allowed students to understand how much they needed to adjust their rate of fire to maintain accuracy.
Boom, X, boom, 8, boom, because that way it's calling your shots. When we start mastering all these skills and putting that stuff together, that's when we can start gaining our speed and working our mechanics.
We wrapped up day 1 working on sidestepping and drawing, target transitions, and slow aim fire drills from 15 and 25 yards. On day 2, we started with one-handed shooting, both our strong and support sides. Rick emphasized how we should keep our body as square to the target as possible instead of blading off, which is often seen in the competition world. Blading off can expose ourselves to more harm if we're shot. He also discussed shooting one-handed with the natural cant in our hands or arms versus having more of a vertical grip orientation. I liked how he had students try both methods to find out what works best for them, because I, for one, shoot faster and more accurately one-handed without canting my pistol on my strong side, while shooting better with a cant with my support side. He talked about hand transfers, which might seem simple to many, but there are details in making the movement or the transfer more efficient and safer. For example, he talked about using one's index fingers to maintain positive control of a pistol during the hand transfer. It made a lot of sense, and I have yet to run into anyone who has taught this little detail. The remainder of day 2 was focused on drilling to work on everything we learned. We started off with a neat little drill that required us to elevate our heart rate by running, then taking 15 shots at a target from 10 yards, all while we had water in our mouths. Having water in our mouth forced us to control our breathing to ensure accurate shots on target. The next drill required us to work on processing info. A target with various letters, shapes, numbers, and colors was used, and Rick called out the course of fire revolving around the different elements on the target. It required us to listen attentively and ID what we needed to shoot. We worked more on recoil management and throttle control by shooting 5-shot drills at different distances. After, we used the t-shirt we were asked to bring for the next drill. We stapled it over a standard USPSA target and conducted a number of drills shooting the shirt. We shot from the holster in a stationary position, then worked turning and shooting. The purpose of this drill was to highlight that if we focus on shooting targets center mass, we will most likely shoot a person's abdomen in a real gunfight. Instead, we need to aim higher around one's chest. If we get sucked into shooting center mass on competition targets all the time, we're building bad habits. So for the competition shooters out there, for defensive shooting purposes, you really want to have all of your hits land on the upper half of an A zone. We wrapped up day 2 with the self-evaluation we started with to gauge improvement and a number of different courses of fire that worked everything we learned throughout the weekend.
As I mentioned earlier, Rick's class provides a good balance of instruction of the fundamentals as well as shooting time. So students are going to get a lot of reps in to really engrave the techniques and the details that they learn. Even though it was a fundamentals class, it was a really good refresher for me, picking up new details that I've forgotten from the past and also some new ones. Actually, what I like the most about his class is the focus on mindset. So when you go to many other marksmanship classes, you don't really get that. And even though his class is still focused on marksmanship, he's adding that little taste of being prepared for a real life deadly encounter, making sure that what you're doing is going to actually work in real life. You're thinking more and not relying on an instructor just to tell you everything and spoon feeding you everything. So as I mentioned, he wants you to think more. So if you're looking for a class that is going to work on your fundamentals, but also challenge you, I recommend checking out Rick Hogg's War Hogg pistol class.